Tonight we will be focusing on why to employ people with impairment. Very important subject. Okay, so first up we will be doing an acknowledgement of country. 30-foot drop acknowledges the traditional owners of the country throughout Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and the community. We pay our respects to the Indigenous people, their cultures and beliefs, to both elders past and present. Funding. 30-foot Drop would like to acknowledge the Department of Communities Disability Services for funding this and many other initiatives. Without their support, so many projects such as Two Wise Monkeys wouldn't exist or see the light of day, and we would be so much more poorer for it as a community. I'll just move this a little bit. This workshop is part of a Realities and Advantages Inclusion Grant awarded to 30-foot Drop as a part of the Information, Linkages and Capacity Buildings Grant for 2018 and 2019. Okay, housekeeping. Unfortunately, we do not have enough resources to monitor all of our live streaming. So if you want to ask any questions, you can head over to our website, which is www.30footdrop.com.au/live. There is a live button, hit the live button and it should come up with a chat box. So if you have any questions for me, head over there and right away. Right, okay, so we'll be covering a lot of information in a short period of time, so we recommend that attendees take all actions to minimise distractions. Please make sure, if you can, if you talk about us today or you share the information that we've gone over today, if you could just tag us in that information, because the more we can get out there and more exposure we can get, the better. As well, if you know anyone that might be interested in these webinars, please share this information with them. We've got webinars running until June, so there's plenty of time for people to catch up. There's 6 parts to it and we do them every Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. So head over and join us. We really appreciate it if you could watch them all. It's just such good information and we really need to get it out there. We'll also be recording the webinar, so if there's anything that you wanted to go over again or you missed anything, you just need to head on to the website or the Facebook or YouTube and you can re-watch this. Everything I'll be talking about today will be available on the 30-foot Drop resource library, so you once again head to the website, look up sources, hit resources, and everything we talk about in all the webinars, everything is in there, just more in-depth information. At the end of the webinar, it would be really awesome if you guys could fill out the survey that we have. It's just 5 or 6 questions. It's really good for us to get feedback for the future. So please, if you have time, could you please fill that out? That'd be great. Okay, so your wise monkeys. I am Lisa and I am Hear No Evil. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. Just by looking at me, you probably can't tell what I may suffer from. Through me, you will realise that you hear no evil about impairment. My story is more of a hidden one. At the age of 8, I was diagnosed with mild dyslexia. Teachers used to hit me on the head, read out my low marks, and yell at me in front of all my classmates. Why don't you understand what's wrong with you? Making me feel completely dumb and unworthy. But despite these challenges growing up, I didn't let these teachers get in the way. I just carried on, tried my best, and that's all you can do. But, you know, everyone has something that they're good at. And it wasn't until the age of 13 that I realised that, hey, I'm kind of all right at art and photography and using my creative brain. So I headed down that path. And if you feel like you yourself or you know anyone might have a learning disability or dyslexia, just hold on to the thought that you will find that passion. It may take you a little while, but you'll get there. And you know, we don't all have to be amazing spellers and amazing mathematicians to succeed in life. I've got multiple diplomas in the arts field. I've worked all around the world in art galleries, organising exhibitions, doing picture framing, heaps and heaps of stuff. I love artwork. I could go on and on and on and on and on. So at present I have have diplomas in the arts field, one in counselling, and I'm also doing photography as well, which is Lisa Hall Creative if you want to go and check it out. Okay, so the second monkey is See No Evil, and that is Ben. He is the managing director of 30 Foot Drop and Two Ways Monkey. He's the creator of all of this, and he's doing amazing work in the community. He's just go, and it's really making a difference for everyone out there. So keep watching him. Now, isn't there supposed to be a 3 wise monkeys? Who is the third monkey? Who is Speak No Evil? Take a guess. Well, the answer is you. The aim of today's webinar is to turn you into the wise monkey. You'll begin on a journey of realizing that, impairment or not, we are all human and deserve to be acknowledged and treated in the same way as everyone else. Such an important message. So outline a method of today. How are we going to get you started on the path of the wise monkey? Well, there's a lot to learn about people with impairment, the opportunities they represent as employees. First up, we'll examine and bust some of the common myths around employing someone with an impairment. After a little Mythbuster session, we'll go down to the brass tacks and look at the subsidies available when employing someone with an impairment at your business and how to access them. The final subject, we will be looking at workplace modifications and how to access the funding for these. To finish up, we'll do an open forum session, so I will let anyone ask any questions, but you can also do that along the way, and if I can, I will try and answer them for you. So what will our teaching method be? How will we cover all of this? The answer is fun, experience, and open, honest discussion. So feel free to ask any questions. None are off limits. Ask them any time along the way. You'll also notice that there's very little written content on the slides. That's because we're all here to interact with each other. And it also makes it easy for people to understand. So if they did have a learning disability, they just need to listen and look at the slides, or if they had a hearing impairment, they can read and look at the slides. There's not too much information, so it just makes it sort of more open for a lot of people to look at. So, terminology and review. To reduce confusion and ensure understanding, I just want to run through a few things about disability and impairment and the difference between them. An impairment is an injury, illness, or congenital condition that causes or is likely to cause a loss or difference of physiological and psychological function. In short, an impairment is your medical diagnosis. So my medical diagnosis is that I have mild dyslexia. Disability, on the other hand, is the loss or limitation of opportunities to take part in society on an equal level with everyone else due to social and environmental barriers. It is, as the word implies, something that makes you unable to access or participate in something. So someone in a wheelchair cannot access a place if there are stairs there because they are unable to use the stairs. So hopefully that makes sense to you. My example for dyslexia would be that too much information and complex wording can make it hard for people to understand with dyslexia, which then makes it harder for us to get the right information that we need. So make your service easy to understand, pretty much like this website. It's very clear, it's very easy to understand. Too much information, confusing long words that only certain people know the meaning of, that just makes it confusing. And it's important to remember this because some people's impairments are hidden. So mine is hidden. You wouldn't know unless I told you. So just be aware to make your service accessible. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone. So next we'll be looking at access and inclusion. Access refers to the removal or reduction of barriers, physical and attitudinal, to participate in activities and functions of the community. It is as its core access focuses a lot on the physical world around us and is easily assessed with a checklist. Inclusion is a more psychological state of being and is the process hereby every person, irrespective of their age, disability, gender or religion, sexual preference or nationality, who wishes to, can participate fully in all aspects of an activity or service in the same way as everyone else does. So that's all about making that person feel included in your service and welcome, just to help them feel comfortable. They may have a disability or impairment, but they also need to feel included to actually want to be there. Okay, if there's any questions along the way, please tap away in the chat box. Okay, employing people with an impairment, myths versus reality. Let's have a look at some of the myths and realities that exist when employing people with an impairment. These myths aren't just random statements that have been plucked out of thin air. They are 7 recurring reasons for not employing people with impairment from studies all over the world. Okay, let's get down to it. Myth 1. People with impairment need expensive modifications in order to be productive employees. Have a think about that one. Yeah, not true. Impairments are like people. Every single one is unique, and not everyone with an impairment needs a special modification. Our advice is to ask the potential employee and find out what they do or don't need. Ben readily admits that getting adaptations for impairments are expensive. Wheelchairs can cost $20,000 upwards, and having a car modified for a wheelchair can cost $50,000 upwards. But most of the time, someone with an impairment like that has these things. And this is because they use them day to day. So the business is not going to have to pay for a lot of the things that they already have to live day to day. If an employee does need a modification, then they are often easy to work with and inexpensive. There is also a good chance that it isn't the first time they've been asked this question, and they will know how best to work around it. All you need to do is ask. Finally, if the required modification is expensive, then there is funding available for these, which we will cover later on in this session. So it just shows that people with an impairment don't necessarily require expensive adaptations to your workplace. And the help you can get for these modifications is through job access, which we will go into further a bit later on. Okay, myth 2. People with an impairment are frequently absent from work. The opposite is true. According to the Disability Investment Group, The Way Forward, a disability policy framework for Australia 2009, stated that 86% have the same or superior attendance rate as any other worker. Studies have shown that they also have a reduced turnover rate, which means less onboarding costs for you as a business, meaning you will actually be saving money. Why is this the case? Well, the studies show that people who have a disability or an impairment have an unemployment rate that is double the rest of society. Isn't that absolutely crazy? Double. So people with a disability, or for people with a disability or impairment, it takes them twice as many job applications before landing a job. One of Ben's friends actually applied for 183 jobs before landing a job. So that just shows, that is dedication, applying for 183 jobs. Due to this difficulty of finding employment, people with a disability or impairment view the job success as a privilege and not as a right, and they will go the extra mile to obtain it. I think I would too if I had applied for 183 jobs. It's crazy. Okay. Myth 3. People with impairment are only suited to unskilled work. Once again, untrue. There is such a range of skills, talents and abilities that people with impairment and disability have. It's just a matter of giving these people a chance. The Australian Bureau of Statistics reported that in 2012, 19.9% worked as professionals, 14.1% worked as clerical and administrative workers, 15.2% worked as technicians or trades, 11.6% ran their own business, and 33.7% worked from home. So it just shows that you shouldn't assume that someone with a disability or impairment can't do what you are looking for in an employee. And these people are going to do anything to keep this job. Myth 4. My workers' compensation premiums and safety incidence rates will go up. Once again, not true. Employing someone with an impairment does not affect your premiums and premiums. Insurance underwriters look at the incident history of the workplace and workers' compensation claims, not the number of people with an impairment. Further to that, studies have shown that employees with an impairment are up to 6 times less likely to have a WHS incident and are less likely to lodge a workers' compensation claim, which will lower your business insurance. I bet some of you didn't know that. It is thought the reason for this can be attributed to the difficulty many people with impairment and disability have finding a job. If you find it hard to find employment, you're not exactly going to go and risk that job that you've got by breaking the rules or cutting corners. You're going to do the right thing because you do not want to apply for 183 jobs again. And that, you're just grateful for the opportunity. Good jobs are hard to come by, and these people that are finding it hard to get jobs, they just need to be given that chance. And there's so many businesses out there that could be giving these people chances. Hopefully it's one of you guys watching. Okay, myth 5. People with impairment are less productive employees. Once again, not true. Studies have shown that when matched with the right job that is within their ability, people with impairment are just as productive as any other employee. Coupled with this reduced absenteeism, reduced WHS claims and workers' compensation, and increased retention makes sense. And people whose productivity is reduced as a result of their impairment may like to consider the supported wage subsidy. This is a subsidy which you can access, which is a reliable process of productivity-based wage assessment to determine fair pay for fair work, which we will go over later in the session. Okay, myth 6. Workers with an impairment will not fit into the workplace. Not true. In most cases, co-workers' acceptance comes from awareness and observing that the co-workers are competent and efficient in their jobs, regardless of their impairment. People with an impairment make up to 20% of the Australian population, and the likelihood of clients and co-workers having a friend or relative with an impairment is high. Studies show that employer initiatives in hiring people with impairment can have a positive bottom line result for your whole team, increasing staff morale and community recognition as good corporate citizens. In conclusion, your workers are just as... Sorry, my computer just stopped then. Hiring people with an impairment can have a positive bottom line result for your whole team, increasing staff morale and community recognition as good corporate citizens. In conclusion, your workers are just like anyone else and they deserve to be given that chance. Myth 7. If they don't work out, I cannot discipline or fire them. This was a tricky one and I wasn't sure about this one either. Okay. if they don't work out, I cannot discipline or fire them. Not true. Employing a person with a disability is the same as any other worker. You must establish clear performance expectations from the start, and if they are unable or unwilling to do the job, you can take further action as normal. Important thing to know. There are no special laws that prevent you from disciplining or terminating an employee who is unable or unwilling to do their job. So I hope that you've all understood the myths that I have just gone through. If you don't understand, please feel free to ask any questions. I just wanted to say I worked in a gallery in the UK, and there was a guy called Graham there, and he had intellectual disabilities. So, and he was probably about 70 when I worked with him, and I was only about 23. And he used to do all the bespoke frames, so just like, the standard little photo frames and stuff. And he would stand there all day making the same thing, doing it, and he just loved his job. And you know what? I loved him as well. He loved his job. He was there right on time. He timed his lunch break. He came back and everything had to be perfect. He was just the best. And everyone loved him, and he just did himself so proud. So it just shows, look how happy you can make some of these people. And also, what a bonus to the business. He was doing things that, potentially someone that had more of a higher skill could give those jobs to him and wouldn't need to worry about it. So it works both ways. It works all around. And I really do hope that you guys can think about doing that in your business. Okay, next we will move on to the subsidies. What subsidies are available? When employing a person with an impairment, there are various opportunities depending on the job seeker's profile and role hours. These are designed to offset training and other costs during the initial period of employment. This is an amazing incentive for employers. These subsidies can be released in a lump sum or flexible payment contingent on the award rates being paid, the minimum hours being worked as per agreement, the employee being registered with a disability service, employment service, which we will go into deeper in webinar part 2. But now we will go over some of the subsidies which are available to you as an employer. Okay, these are basic outlines, and some further criteria may apply. So you can look into that on our website, or you can contact us, or you can also contact the disability services yourself. Okay, wage subsidy is number 1. This is $1,500. The requirements are the employee needs to be registered with a disability employment service. The candidate will need to have an average of 8 hours per week at your business over a total amount of 13 weeks, with the intention of going on to 26 weeks. The payment is still made if the job finishes at 13 weeks, so you'll be paid to 26 weeks. And if you don't have to do the 8 set hours every week, it could be 8 hours one week, none the next, and then 16 the next, as long as at the end of the period it amounts to 8 hours a week. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, wage start 2 is $6,000. Requirements are that the employee is once again registered with a DES provider, is under 50 at the time, and has been a long time unemployed job seeker. So this is the duration of 52 weeks or longer. So they've been actively looking for a job for that long. And will need to receive an average of 15 hours per week over, once again, the 26 weeks duration, which is about 6 months. Okay, the restart subsidy. Now we're starting to get up into bigger numbers for businesses. Great incentives once again. So this is $10,000 given to the business for requirements. The requirements to be able to claim this subsidy are, once again, DES provider, registered with a DES provider. Now you're over 50 or over, unemployed for 52 weeks or longer. You need to receive an average of 20 hours per week within your business over a 26-week period. So with those hours needing to be worked, once again, people can chop and change the hours as long as it works out to be 20 hours per week. So you can do 10 hours one week, 30 hours the next week, just so it evens out. It's got to even out in the end. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so number 4, supported wage system. This particular subsidy is more complicated, but in short revolves around the concept of fair pay for fair work. So how it works, it allows candidates who cannot perform all job requirements to receive a productivity-based wage system. And so it doesn't disadvantage the employer. So the employer is not missing out if the person's only working a percentage of their wage. They're only getting paid that percentage of their wage, so no one's missing out. An assessment determines the gap between the actual requirement and the standard performance due to the worker's health condition or disability, and the percentage of the hourly rate is payable. So for example, if it's determined that someone is producing 70% of the job requirement, then the relevant award rate is paid at 70%. Okay, how can employees access these subsidies? Get in touch with your local DES provider, disability employment provider, and we will be discussing what these are and how these work in our next webinar, which is tomorrow, part 2. Right, let's go over what is job access. Job access is the national hub for workplace and employment information for people with a disability or impairment, employees and other service products. It's funded by the Employment Assistance Fund, which is a government service. They offer financial assistance for workplace modifications that assist people with disability to gain meaningful employment. So it's great that I'm sure not everywhere all over the world you would get help with employing someone with a disability, but it's really great that Australia has this opportunity for people, and we are just trying to encourage that businesses take this on and look into the job access, or contact your disability service provider, because you can get someone in and give them a job at your workplace with the help of job access. Now we can go over workplace modifications. So you can get help. Workplace modifications can be used for the cost of making adjustments to the physical workplace. They could also be used for modifications to vehicles or specialist equipment at the workplace. You could use them for information and communication devices. You could use them for an Auslan interpreting service for someone that has a hearing impairment, or other specialist services for employees with specific learning disorders or mental health conditions. You can use them for your whole team in your workplace to do a disability awareness training, and also mental health and awareness and first aid training. So there's so many things out there to understand and get to know these people. So your other workers could come along to some of these, be a part of it and learn more through the Auslan or the mental health information and communication devices. There's so much out there for people. Okay, the application process. Okay, just please note, most disability employment services will facilitate and arrange any assessments that are required. They know what they're doing and are brilliant. But you can also do it yourself if you want to. So they help submit the application to the Employment Assistance Fund. They also submit it to Job Access. And then if the application at Job Access is successful, they advise the workplace assessment. If you're asking for something big, they will come and assess this requirement. If no assessment is required, the workplace purchases the goods and services and gets reimbursed by Job Access. If required, Job Access will also arrange a specialist to confirm the workplace modification validity and use them for any other questions you might have. So they'll come in and assess the workplace and see how, say you're getting a lift, how the lift's going to work, make sure that all the requirements are there, what needs to be done, and you can also use them to look at other things for anyone else that has an impairment or disability, or just that one person. So the workplace purchases goods and services all get reimbursed through Job Access. Okay, funding caps. Physical workplace adjustments and building modifications are capped at $30,000. Auslan Level 1 interpreting is for work-related activities for employees who are deaf or have a hearing impairment, including remote interpreting and real-time captioning. It is capped at $6,000 for a 12-month period. Auslan Level 2 interpreting is for job interviews and related activities such as site visits, completion of tests and information sessions for people who are deaf or have a hearing impairment. Funding is uncapped. Auslan Level 3 interpreting is to help co-workers receive the training. So like I was saying before, this you can involve co-workers in these fundings and subsidies. So to help employees who are deaf or hearing impairment who use Auslan as their main method of communication, it is capped at $855. So the co-workers can receive Certificate 2 in Auslan so that they can communicate with the person who has a hearing impairment, which is awesome. Disability awareness training. If you employ someone with a disability, you can apply for funding for disability awareness training for the workplace. This is capped at $1,500 for each employee with a disability within a 12-month period. So you could hire someone to come in and go over the workplace disability awareness training, come in for the whole workplace, and it sort of revolves around that person with the disability or impairment, but it gets the other employees understanding how to work with it. So that is the myths and realities of employing someone with a disability or impairment. And that is the webinar for today. That went fast. I hope you enjoyed today and that you understood everything that I went over. There's quite a lot of information there. So if you missed anything or you wanted to know anything else, you can head over to the chat box, or you can email or message us. Tomorrow we will be going into the Job Access place a bit more, and I'll be doing it tomorrow morning and tomorrow night. But for now, if you have to go, it would be really great if you could head over to the survey, which is on our website, www.30footdrop.com.au. Head over there and look for the survey part 1 and fill out those 5 questions. Now we're going to have a open forum session, so I will put a question banner up so you won't see me. And if you've got any questions, please ask me any questions, and I will jump back on at 22:07 and answer any questions. But if you do have to go, please just fill out the survey before you go. Right, I will see you guys in 5 minutes. Okay, there doesn't appear to be any questions, which is totally fine. If you wanted to look at the webinar again or look at any resources, you can head over to the website, which is under this video. Before you go, please fill out the survey, and I hope you enjoyed tonight, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for joining me. See you later.